Nintendo Switch breaking. Nintendo updates its Switch terms to allow permanent breaking of consoles involved in unauthorized use. The company says it's a move to prevent piracy, meaning modders and homebrew users risk losing access entirely.
That is a thing since the Wii.
So that's been the big argument, and everyone's like, "Dude, fuck that! I'll just, I'll jailbreak it and do other stuff." But I guess I don't understand. How do they track this?
Well, once you go online on the service, I guess that's when they can it pings.
It's when back in the days of the Wii, I had a modded Wii, so I just never went online with it. And every time you had a game that would update your Wii for you, sometimes games do that because they require certain firmwares. You had to also update the mod chip.
Johnny, what do you
there's
think?
probably some privacy software on there that connects with the server when you go on the internet.
I don't know. It's weird. I almost just feel like if they didn't fight this so hard and push it so hard, people would do it less.
I do agree with Johnny though. Like if they didn't make such a big deal about this, I don't think people would care that much. But it's like when you're constantly trying to battle against people, you're not letting people do third-party tournaments, and you're doing all this other stuff and trying to get rid of modders, and you're trying to get rid of people using the emulators and stuff like that. It's like, dude, you're almost challenging the internet to fight you. Like you're almost inviting people to go out and try to figure out how to do this or get around it. And they could just let it go and let it be a thing, man. I mean, like it's not like they're hurting for sales.
There's a lot of hysteria in that. That's been happening since the Xbox.
Well, just because something's been happening before doesn't mean it's good. But yeah, it is
totally
more common.
agree. I totally agree with your point, Jed. But when Nintendo does it, suddenly it's like, oh,
yeah,
Nintendo!
But also, you got to remember, part of the reason people do it with Nintendo is because they're behind when it comes to graphics and frame rates and all that stuff. So a lot of times people use emulators to upscale their games. Yeah. You know, like we've been able, if you have an emulator, you've been able to upscale Breath of the Wild to 4K 60 frames for a long time.
2017, yeah.
You know,
this
and the fact is
petty.
Yeah, it feels petty. That's why it feels different when Nintendo does it.
It's very out of touch with reality, which is par for the course for Nintendo.
There is, and I don't know if this comes into play, but it's a thing that we haven't really talked about either. There is pressure on a corporation to protect its IP, and there is pressure from lawyers to say, hey, if these people are pirating your games, or if we're noticing an uptick in piracy, we're noticing that this is becoming a thing, you have to protect your IP. That is a thing that is on companies and corporations that own ideas and own concepts, that if they don't reasonably protect or take steps to protect their IP, they can lose their copyrights.
Yeah,
you know, so there is, and I don't know how much that comes into play with this, but there is sometimes that idea that, you know, there's a lot of hands in the pot when it comes to Nintendo. It's not just Nintendo execs sitting around a table. They have lawyers, they have marketing people, they have all these other people all also throwing shade and talking to them. You know, they have Nintendo of America talking to Nintendo of Japan. We don't always know what the conversation behind the scenes is, but that is also a thought behind it. Is it also could be pressure from a lawyer or pressure from some other branch of Nintendo saying, hey, we have to take steps to fight this because we know that it's going to continue, or we know it's going to grow, and maybe we'll lax on that as we go down the line. But it's just a thought that I think people didn't, mention.
Yeah, most people don't know that. Like, and people that even saw some of what we had, play out kind of in the public sphere, regarding like one of our characters, right? Like, yeah, that is a thing that people don't consider. And then I Dan will feel me on this. I talk about it all the time about how, like, especially in the legal space, like morals and like more or less principles, they don't do you any good. Right, like no, law doesn't care about that. So you can be the most principled man. You can be against IP, you can be pro IP. It doesn't really matter at all, because at the end of the day, the law is the law, and yeah, you do have to protect it in some capacity. Now, that's it. I just want to be fair. Definitely in America, right? It's the most litigious country on the planet, right? You can sue anybody for any fucking reason, right? In this country. Now, again, they are a little more strict with Nintendo in Japan as far as the stuff they're able to do. That's what happened, to my knowledge, if I'm getting this correct, with the Power World. situation with they recently had to patch it to where now you're on a glider instead of on one of the monsters where you're flying. That was specifically a Japanese thing because they own the patent to being able to do that. And I think that's a more or less like kind of the extreme end kind of what you see on the IP, and why a lot of people, you know, sometimes are just against it as a whole, because it's like this just more or less vague concept that they can own entirely, and it's just illegal for you to do it, right? It's just completely illegal for you to now where you fall on that is your business. But yeah, Mike's correct. I don't know. That's why I'm trying to be fair, especially as someone that, you know, operates a business in the entertainment sphere. I know that even when I entered this sphere, there's a whole lot that I didn't know, especially working with lawyers and stuff that, oh man, from a customer standpoint, I wouldn't have done that. But, you know, from the company perspective, you better had done it, you know, otherwise you're just freeing yourself up to be, to have that IP leveraged against you, especially with regards to like filing for certain things, whether it be patents or copyrights or a trademark. Like, you not doing it, you're not helping yourself there, like, because all that's going to happen is someone else is going to get it from under you. So you had better be actively doing that and better be actively protecting it. Otherwise, you're just going to have some big dog come by and they're going to weaponize it against you. So yeah, it is more complex than just, hey, I have idea and I don't like you buying my shit, or excuse me, I don't like you modding my shit or pirating my shit, and I'm just gonna bring the whole, you know, force of the law. It's a little more complicated than that.